We've got, so Kirsty, you still can't hear me? You got
Can you hear me?
I can. Are you somewhere different tonight? I've never seen that roof before.
No, yes, I am. We have moved house. And there's no aircon, and I've just got back from netball. I'm so hot that I'm literally like, here I am.
It's real life. You still look awesome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. When are we live?
We are live.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. I am just going to double check that we're all good on all platforms. But I'm so excited to chat tonight because usually when we chat, I've always believed in your work, but I have never had that personal experience until the last 12 months. And so I'm just checking. Here we go.
Yeah. Lisa said hello. Lisa, hello. Lovely to see you.
I can't see Lisa anywhere, actually. I'll just check this other platform and then I'll come back.
Okay.
But yeah, so this time it's just been so cool to actually experience firsthand what the families on your program experience. And so it's just been really fun. So we're going to dig into that today. We've, as many people will know, I've been sharing a lot over in our Facebook group, and it's been really cool to see how much interest there is, because I think a lot of people have this inkling that maybe something's not quite right with their gut or their kid's gut, and that it's showing in numerous types of ways, but it just feels a bit hazy and they're not quite sure what it's going to look like to do anything about it. And so I think maybe that's why there's been so much interest. It's like, oh, okay, now I can actually see firsthand what this would look like if we were to actually attempt to do something about our family's gut.
But you're just so awesome at taking the photos and being vulnerable and sharing it. It's just so cool. I just love it. I love seeing it. So
yeah, I'm glad.
Because it's like, you know, when I first did it, I don't even think Instagram was around. So, you know, it's just so nice to see someone really in there and sharing it and kind of breaking down those barriers of it doesn't have to be really scared and hard and crazy, and like, you know, it's still whole yummy foods and you can still do things. So
yeah. And the fact that it's not all roses all the time, and we can't expect it to be that way when you're transitioning a whole family over to a completely, well, not completely different, but it is quite different. It's a different way of being for a time.
Yeah.
And then perhaps ongoing if you feel like that's something that you want to do. I know that I personally have been feeling amazing. So I'm like, awesome. Honestly, the biggest surprise to me is that I have no cravings, no cravings whatsoever. The first 2 weeks that we jumped on program, I was expecting, because I have a very big sweet tooth, and I just love all things chocolate, and I just didn't want anything. And like, there are chocolate recipes and there are all those things. And to be really honest, I mean, of course, if you're going to have a beautiful, like, sugar-free chocolate compared to, say, a Cadbury whatever, the taste is going to be different.
Yeah.
But the satiation has just been incredible. Like, I just, once I have those foods, even though it tastes good, it might not taste excellent all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because after I've had it, I'm just like, oh, I'm so satisfied right now, and I just don't want anything else.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just something that I say to people all the time, like, yeah, you hate the yogurt now, but you're going to love it in 3 weeks, and you know, you're not going to be craving food. And in fact, for some people, it's actually, come on, you need to eat more and make sure that, because when you're in that state of ketosis and when your body is humming along really well, you can sometimes forget to eat. You can, just because you're really efficient, your body's working really well. And sometimes some people are like, I can't even imagine going for longer than 2 hours without a snack. And then I say to them, like, I can guarantee, like, in about 3 or 4 weeks when we chat again, you'll be like, okay, Kirsty, I didn't eat enough today. Yeah, I went too long without food. Like, it's amazing to watch people completely flip over, and all of their barriers and their fears and all of the reasons why they didn't join, or they didn't or join in, you know, on the gut health sort of understanding and stuff. That they suddenly are like, oh, it's not, that was my whole like 5-year barrier that I couldn't get past. And it was like gone in a week. And then, why didn't you tell me?
Well, honestly, though, I mean, 5 years is no joke. I was almost that long, you know? Like,
I know.
Yeah, you can hear about these things and you can assume that it would be a really great step for you to take. But until you're actually mentally ready and feeling like you're in a good space, it kind of just sometimes feels a bit too much. And I'm sure that there are lots of people out there who would actually benefit from jumping in before they feel ready, because some of us will never feel ready.
No.
But
it's like having kids, you know. You just eventually like, okay, then let's
just do it. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I think I was in survival mode for quite a few years, and I just was not like, I didn't think I was ready for it, and I don't think that I could have actually committed and done the prep and had the space to do it, because, you know, it is a commitment. You know, this is a medicinal approach to actually progressing a problem with our health. And I think that's the biggest mental mind shift that I've had to really consciously remind myself of each day, is that this is not just something I'm doing for fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually my child's nurse, you know, like, this is, you know, I'm under the guidance of these health practitioners who are wonderful over at Cultured Wellness. Alyssa's our health coach that's been assigned to us. And, you know, she guides us. We've got the videos from Kirsty, etc. Like, so there, I kind of view you in my, what do you call it? My hypothetical principle in my mind that, you know, you're the doctors. I'm now the nurse that's, you know, pulling through and actually, you know, doing the practical steps to help our kids along. And when you've got, you know, our 5-year-old who, you know, I've spoken to you at length about Rosie's difficulties.
Yeah.
She's got
How's she going?
It's been school holidays, and so there's been this change of routine, and so we haven't really seen a whole lot of the issues that we used to see. It has improved over the months leading up to now.
Yeah.
But just this week we had our first episode in quite a little while, and I was reminded of what it potentially may be like next week when school goes back, because it was all about, because, you know, during the holidays I've just kind of let go of having to brush her hair every day, you know, having to like
putting the shoes on and being in the car on time.
Yeah, exactly. So when that routine comes back again, I am a little bit apprehensive about how that's going to go next week. But
well, let's have that as one of your questions, because I've got all the tools under the sun for that.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will definitely remember to ask that.
You get high priority question on that one.
Yeah. So I feel like we've been ignoring people in the chat. So I can't post comments to some. Okay. So if I won't be able to post comments to some places, I'm not sure.
Okay. I can see I can see people saying hello.
Oh, here we go.
So it's awesome.
Hey, Misha, Lisa, Sue, Bev, Kelly, hello. Now, there's a couple of people who we can't see your name. If you can just click the link that's in the description of this post, it just allows this streaming platform that we're using to show us your name. We'd love to see who we're chatting with.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of questions that people have sent through, because I was fielding lots of different questions. It looks some I can answer, and, you know, sometimes people just want to ask me a question about the kids or whatever, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions. But of course, there are some more, you know, health-oriented questions that I'd really prefer to direct to you. So I'm really happy that you've volunteered to come and chat with our beautiful community tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kick off with some of those questions. Laurie, our team member, has categorized them. So right now I'm just going to delve into some general gut health maintenance questions. The first one's from Robin, and she said, once you have balanced your gut, how do you know if it needs a recheck, or if there's a bug in your gut or / imbalance that you don't know about? So how do you sort of continually maintain that awareness of what's going on?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So Robin, look, ideally, and some of you may have heard me say this before, ideally I would love like a Microbiota test or some form of gut test to be Medicare approved, and it's a once a year update, checkup, and you're always having that feedback. You're always getting that, like you should get your bloods every sort of 6 months, and it should just be this regular checkup that we have. So in an ideal world, once a year anyway. But for some people, you may know that the balance is slipping easily. So you go away, you stay somewhere, and the rainwater tank doesn't have a filter on it. And then you all come home and you've got the runs and you feel terrible, and your kids are up at the full moon and you're like, hang on a minute, I think something's happened here. And you've got, parasite or something's going on. So you can look at it symptomatically, and it might be quite overt. So suddenly you've got the diarrhea, or suddenly you've got the bloating, or there's been a significant change in your gut and in your stools. So any significant change is significant, but we seem to just sort of, brush it off as, I used to have that quite a lot, so I suppose it's just come back because I'm stressed, or that happens every now and again now. And we sometimes forget where we got to, and we sometimes forget that wonderful gut microbiome that we had, or how well we were thriving. So we've always got to be remembering and checking in with our symptoms and checking in with our gut. So it can be quite overt. The other thing that you'll notice that hang on a minute, my gut's out of balance and I need to check it, is your mental health. So if you find that your mood is going down, or if you find that your thoughts have changed quite significantly, or you're not as resilient, or you're seeing sort of a different side to the story, so to speak. So you're not as positive as you normally are, or you're finding it really hard to motivate yourself and to get that drive back again. That can also show a significant change in your gut. So it doesn't need to be an overt diarrhea because you picked something up. It can also be mood, and it can be your mental health. The other thing is, if you notice any skin rashes, if you notice any eczema, if you notice anything topically on your skin, and then pain. So if you have a big flare up in pain, or you suddenly randomly get diagnosed with arthritis, or any types of those pain conditions, or brain conditions like anything from Parkinson's to Alzheimer's to brain fog, then you know that your gut's out of balance. So basically, if anything changes in your life,
look, the science has just been incredible, hasn't it? With actually learning about how the gut impacts all of those areas. And last year, I know many of you listening may be familiar with our experience with our eldest daughter, who was experiencing debilitating anxiety. And look, it did kind of creep up over 12 months or so.
It does.
Yeah. And so through addressing her gut, it was literally a 6-week turnaround. It was way faster than I expected. And I think even perhaps you expected, Kirsty. I'm not sure, but I think I remember you being, okay, 6 weeks is pretty fast. That's great. Yes. And so, she went from attending school 2 hours a day and then having to come home, which was just like so intense. Like that's significantly impacting her life.
Yeah.
And my life as well, having to go home every day. But in 6-week period, she was literally passing these parasites that were like 30 centimeters long every day for, a couple of weeks there. And then it was done, and she was just like loving school full time again. And so that was a huge eye-opener to me. But, I'd heard the theory about how gut health can impact mental health, but to see it in such a short space of time with someone who I love and care about and could just see day and night was just,
Yeah. It is amazing, and that you've hit the nail on the head there. A lot of the mental health side of things, and even moving into eating disorders and changes in behavior around, food choices and food patterns and so forth. It just slowly creeps up. And so it's very hard unless you go into that really kind of detailed background. It's often hard to pick it. It's often hard to find when it started because it was so long ago, it's almost your new normal. But yeah.
I listened to your talk you gave perhaps earlier, maybe mid last year, and you asked your community, you said, when is the last time you remember feeling good?
Yeah.
And that kind of helps you to identify when things started going downhill, because like you said, it's hard to pinpoint. But when you think, okay, when is the last time that I felt really good? Like, do I have a photo of that time? Is there some memory of me when I just felt on top of the world?
Yeah.
And, that can give you some indication. What was happening around then? Were you traveling? Did you get a parasite when you were traveling? Or, so it's one of the, it could be a million different things. But that was a great exercise. And I'd actually love, if anyone's listening here tonight that can pinpoint that time in your life when you did last feel amazing. You woke up in the morning just feeling like, yes, I'm ready for this day. Let's sort of discuss and identify when that was for you. I'd love to hear. Hey, Becky. Hey, Soccer. Nice to see you both. Someone has asked, what are we both drinking? I've got 2 drinks here. I've got one water and one broth.
Classic. I've got some water that's running very low from consults today that I haven't got around to filling up. And then I've got like a hot chocolate sort of drink that's got some MCT oil in it, so my brain can keep up with all the questions. So got a little bit of butter, a little bit of MCT, a bit of cacao for some dopamine. So
love it.
A bit of a blend. Yeah.
Is that the hot chocolate recipe from the Guttalicious book?
Yes, a tweaked version of that.
Okay, yeah, I do like that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. But guys, those who are live here tonight, feel free to pop your questions in the live thread. You don't have to wait for us to get through the questions that have been sent in advance. Kelly says, I can't even remember when the last time was that I woke up full of energy. Kelly, you are certainly not alone.
No, definitely not.
All right, so Misha has asked, if you only have a slight overgrowth of a few opportunistic bacteria, do you really need to strip or rebuild your microbiome using supplements, or can you heal naturally with diet and kefir, etc.?
Yeah, that is such a wonderful question. I'm so glad that question was asked, because that kind of blends in this beautiful sort of synergy between what are we seeing in the test results and also what are you seeing and feeling for yourself. So if there is a pathogenic overgrowth in your, say, your microbiome report or your CMM or whatever, stool analysis that you've had done, if you see an overgrowth in there, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do some, big crazy strip back. If you don't have any symptoms, if you don't have anything going on for you, and we may also find that, yes, there's a pathogenic overgrowth, but there's also just such amazing diverse microbes in there that it's keeping that overgrowth at bay. And so it's sort of keeping it in one little box, and all the rest of those beautiful microbes are making sure that it's keeping it in its own little spot and not causing too much trouble. So I've seen lots and lots of people that have, they've had quite significant overgrowths, and there's really been no problem for them. Often it's, a partner of someone on program that, I'll get it done because why not? It's a bit of fun to have my gut test looked at. And there's no symptoms, there's nothing going on, the regular stools, they're sleeping really well, no skin conditions, there's just nothing symptom-wise happening. So we don't always have to jump in and go crazy, but that's why it's so important to work with someone to collect a really good health history and to have a look at, from an outsider's perspective, a third party, is there actually something going on? Because of course we all say, yeah, everything's fine. But I do take, antacids, and I am on, 4 Nurofen a day, and I can't really sleep that well. It's been probably 30 years since I've slept quite well. And it's amazing when you hear people saying, but no, I'm fine. Everything's pretty good.
Well, it's just so normal. Usual, I should say, common. So common for us to feel, to just not be balanced and not be thriving, but everyone's feeling the same way. So I guess that's fine, right?
Yeah. No, it's not. And that's why, if you go through and get your microbiota test done or whatever test that you want to use, and you may have significant inflammatory markers in there. For example, LPS is a really great one to single out. And that will show us, yes, there's pathogenic activity in there. There's a pathogen overgrowth. But if that LPS, which is that marker of extreme inflammation, if that's not there, you've got these beautiful other microbes, then yes, maybe it's just about adding more fermented foods in, upping your nutrient gain. So you just know that whatever's going in is really nourishing you, you're making great choices, and you might need a few tweaks, and that's it. But yeah, most people, you kind of delve into it and then find out, oh, okay. Maybe there's some things that we need to look at here. So yeah, I think the moral of that story is, yes, if you've got your Microba and you've done it yourself and you've gone to Microba and got your report and you're trying to read it yourself, don't try that, because it's a really complex report. There's a lot more to understand and go through and to read it, and then go through your health history, what's happening, what is normal, what's not, and what needs to be rebalanced. So
I did that, even though I went through you guys to get the Microba report. It must have come to me first, and then I was reading it before my appointment with you or whoever it was, and I was like, oh, that's so amazing. I could get some things from it that was really insightful. But when I had the appointment with Cultured Wellness, it was so much more that I was then able to unfold before my eyes, and it was just very clear then what the action steps needed to be. I think that's what's most important, is actually having action steps.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people, I've only got a little bit of an overgrowth, and it's like, yeah, but you've got no other bacteria in there, so there's a significant issue here. So, or vice versa, like, this is great. Don't worry about that little do. Yeah, we just need to do a bit of this and a bit of that, and we're off and racing.
Yeah, I remember when you looked at Kaya's Microba report, and there was, significant parasite issue in there, and there were 3 different types of bacterial overgrowths. But because she had such great diversity in her gut, she had like the 97th percentile in gut diversity. You said, oh, well, those overgrowths may not be such an issue because, it's going to give you a really great foundation to overcome that. And it within 6 weeks she was fine. So I'm not actually saying she's complete. She still has some work to do. She's actually going to join us on the next round that the other kids are doing. But the progress she's made is incredible. And she actually said, Mum, can I go back on program? That's what prompted me to go, okay, it's time to put everyone on.
Yeah, because the minute she's keen, you, as a mum, you're on.
Yeah.
Just do it. Yeah. It's like when Maya wakes me up and says, can we practice shooting goals? And it's like 5 a.m. Yes, Maya. Yes, let's do it. Okay.
Love it. Soccer has asked, is eczema caused by parasites?
So eczema is caused by an imbalance in the gut and what we call intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And it's caused by the immune system becoming quite disorganized and creating those inflammatory responses. So it could be parasites, or it could be small intestinal issues. It could be a number of things. So, but yes, parasites definitely contribute to it, but it could be other things as well.
Okay, Lisa has said that her Microba report showed that she's missing lots of the good guys in her gut, like 0 good guys. How do I add bacteria there? How do I add bacteria that isn't there at all? Yeah.
So great question. So the first thing, Lisa, is you need to create the environment where new bacteria wants to grow in. So we've got to change the pH. We've got to create all of the right acids and enzymes in there and create the prebiotics and the food. And interestingly, sunshine, getting out into the dirt and into nature, into the bush, that's actually where we gather most of our microbes. So our lifestyle plays a huge part in rebuilding our gut with those ancestral strains that are completely devoid and aren't there anymore. So yes, we can have lots of fermented foods for those commensal bacteria strains. So they're really, really important. And then we can sometimes supplement with other soil-based organisms. There's lots of different types of probiotics that you can use. But the most important thing is that the environment has to be ready, and all of the gut lining, the epithelial cells, it's all got to be sticky, ready for new microbes. It's got to, there can't be any holes in it. It's got to be just the right environment. So it's a bit of a holistic way that you can rebuild it, but you absolutely can. But we're hello. That's the hell out of me.
Good night, Sophia. Did that scare you? that was our middle child, Sophia. She's a crack up, as you can tell.
Good on her. I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we've got to like really be honest with ourselves about our lifestyles. There's some really, really cool information floating around at the moment with some new papers about, it's not new information, it's been around for a long time, but there's new papers coming out about it, about how vitamin D and sunshine, like actually having sunshine on your skin, activates your gut to be in that anti-inflammatory response mode. And so if we're not out in the sun, if we're not out in if we're not out in the sun, if we're not out in the nature and getting access to those soil microorganisms, it's going to be really hard for us to grow our gut.
That's so interesting. Guys, over in our Facebook group, I'm not sure how many are joining on YouTube versus the Facebook group, but inside the Facebook group, you'll see I shared an article about the importance of being out in the dirt, and how that there's a kindergarten in, I forget what country it is, but they've actually put that as part of their curriculum because they understand the importance of kids actually having exposure to dirt and soil and all these beautiful different types of microbes. It's just so incredible to learn about that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I never know how to pronounce your name, but I feel like it's Tasia. I had my gallbladder removed 9 months ago, and boy, I really miss it. So many tummy issues now. Okay, yeah. Rosie, can you go to my other thing? Okay.
So the first thing that we need to think about with that gallbladder is to go back and have a look what was happening around that time that it started to flare up and then you needed it removed. So often the gallbladder is removed because there is some form of infection, or that the body and the liver specifically isn't emulsifying. There's not actually enough fat in the diet. It's quite the opposite of what we think. So we actually need fat to create an emulsified bile. And so when we see gallbladders erupting, it's often because of this age-old follow a low-fat diet and high-carbohydrate diet. And eventually the poor dear gallbladder just gives up in the end. But if you're having tummy issues with gallbladder removal, the first thing we look at is we supplement with some ox bile, which is basically supplementing the bile that your gallbladder would have made to emulsify those fats. So we supplement that. We have a herbal blend called a prokinetic blend. Now, prokinetic means supporting that motility and supporting the body to be able to move the food through and improve that digestive capability. We also supplement with a prokinetic blend to make sure that the liver has all of the resources it needs to digest the food. And then we also need to look at what's happening digestively, why further upstream, for example, in the stomach, in the mouth with the enzymes, what's happening upstream, which means that we're not digesting our food appropriately. But there's lots and lots and lots you can do if you've had your gallbladder removed, but it's really important to get some appropriate care with that. So I have seen that firsthand, like watching my mum go through it, of having a gallbladder out sort of what feels like 30 years ago or something, and just horrific mismanagement of really no care at all. Like, oh, it's just gone now. And then over the last sort of 10 years, really supporting mum around. Every time you eat, you've got to have some ox bile and you've got to have some digestive enzymes, have your prokinetic, support your liver, and you can get to a really great space of management.
I'll have to show my mum the replay of this little part here, because she had her gallbladder removed maybe 12 months ago. Yeah. I'll have to get her onto some supports, I think. Yeah,
and then find out why. So there's always a reason why. So there's been once again, when did you feel well? What happened? And what was the situation around that? Because the why is probably still lurking in the body if it's only been 12 months ago.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure the name of this person, but she says, "Hey, ladies, I'm so excited to get into the world of Kefir ferments for myself and my family. And yeah, it's so fun. I'm sure you've seen all my posts in the group about all the different things that we've been fermenting. And I've had some questions coming through of people that are just so surprised about what you can actually ferment." and it actually, it just opens up, like, a lot of people who have done a ketogenic diet for some time just kind of miss out on the diversity of foods.
Yeah.
And so being able to, go through this gut healing program that is a therapeutic ketogenic approach to a diet, it's or a lifestyle really, we're just able to benefit from such a diverse range of foods, and foods that are those foods that your kids would really miss, and all the fibers that come with it, because that's the first thing that people let go of when they go on a ketogenic diet is the fiber. When you and I love our fiber, right?
Yes.
The fiber challenges that we've done. And so being able to just still enjoy smoothies full of, tropical fruits that have been fermented and all these things just makes this process so much easier.
Yeah.
But my question is, I'm about to embark on a 4-month SIBO protocol. Is Kefir supportive during treatment, or is it better to start post-treatment? Thanks so much.
So it depends who you're working with for your SIBO protocol. So when we do a SIBO protocol at Kultured Wellness, we do add the Kefir in very small amounts, and we have a specific way that we go through it. Some practitioners choose not to introduce fermented foods, and it's mainly the wild ferments. They choose not to introduce fermented foods until afterwards. So it really will depend on who you're working with. And so, if you're working with someone else and that's how they do things, and, you want to go with what has been recommended. But because I know the strains of what's in our Kefir, and I know that it's really beneficial for us, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is what SIBO stands for, we definitely start it straight away.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Thank you. Misha says, I'm thinking I need a second opinion to the current advice I've been given. I'm sure it's always great to get that second opinion.
Yes.
Someone
else up there, Laini, about arthritis. Kelly.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that one?
I probably haven't made it down that far yet. I've been. Did I miss it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Let's do that one, and I'll come back to the other one. My partner has been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. My sister-in-law has rheumatoid arthritis too. We're trying to avoid medication. Could a program like this help her experience with inflammation and pain?
Yes. So rheumatoid arthritis, once again, is a symptom of something that's going on within the body. So we don't want to just, I've got arthritis, and then not want to dig deep further and find out, why is this happening, and how did it start, and how did my body suddenly have arthritis? So I always want to be curious and question that. From my experience with our clients with arthritis, often it's a strep or a staph overgrowth. So very much a SIBO kind of picture. And so it might be staph or strep that's in the nasal passages, it could even be like an old strep throat that hasn't cleared, or a staph. It could have been a school sore or something from years ago that's just hanging around. So what's happening in rheumatoid arthritis is that the infection that it hasn't been found yet is releasing a lot of inflammatory compounds, and those inflammatory compounds are building up, and they're not moving through the body, and they're building up in different parts of the body and causing that calcification and that acidity. So when you've got an infection, it causes huge amounts of metabolites, acidity, and pro-inflammatory things like cytokines. And we're seeing a lot of that at the moment with people going through their COVID story. Everyone's dealing with a cytokine storm. And really that's what arthritis is a major cytokine storm, which are these pro-inflammatory immune cells, and they're building up and they're causing huge issues. We've got to get to what is causing and releasing those inflammatory compounds. Let's get to that and bring that down, rather than kind of like, band-aiding this thing called arthritis, but we don't know what's causing it. So yes, but the short answer is, Kelly, absolutely. It's an autoimmune condition. That's what we do at Cultured Wellness. It's our passion.
I remember when you ran your autoimmune series, and it was so insightful.
And now recovering from that.
There were so many people in there suffering from autoimmune conditions, so many. And is it still available on your YouTube channel, perhaps?
Not at the moment, but do you know what? It was just so kind of like game-changing for so many people, and I need to run it again. But the amount of people that we worked with after that, from just that sad kind of moment of just, once again, mismanagement and people not feeling heard, not having someone in their corner to be curious about, well, why this, and let's test that, and why is that going on, and that's interesting. Maybe we need, like just to actually manage your health concern. It's not happening at the moment for people.
No, and I think that Band-Aid approach is just so prevalent in the medical system that it's actually quite an education to come along and learn about how the gut can actually have such a powerful effect at solving these issues.
Yeah.
So, it's I think half the time of people, more than half the time of people struggling so much with these issues for so long. It's a lack of awareness that there's actually a solution. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to come back up. Okay. If you're taking a range of medications, would this impact the success of a gut healing program?
Well, yes, it will, but we can absolutely manage that. So first of all, we need to obviously find out what those medications are. But one of the key things, which you will know so well, Laini, is that the program really requires a lot of understanding around these detox tools. And we've got to be able to detoxify the body of those metabolites, like I was talking about just before with arthritis and so forth, and also detoxifying all of the medications and any of the byproducts and toxins that we have in our body. So going on a gut healing program, if you're on medications, we just need to work with that person to up the game of the detox tools to help that medication move through the body. So it normally what happens is, once you've been on the program for a very short amount of time, you can, depending on what the medication is, of course, we can slowly start to work with that person's team to start to titrate off the medication. So that final bit of gut healing can happen when there's no other medications and no other inflammatory compounds coming into the body.
I know that our eldest daughter last year, when we were doing her work, she just loved those detox tools because she was feeling the effects of those the parasites were dying off. There were all these crazy things happening in her gut that made her feel terrible. It was all progress and it was all positive, but she felt terrible. So having these detox tools actually just really helped her. And she was, she probably relied on them. She wanted them longer than she even needed them, because she just got used to them helping her so much. So
most people do. And I actually think it's really nasty and it's mean and it's horrible to do any form of rebalancing program or gut program without the detox tool being the absolute foundational basis. And as you know, we don't even let people have our herbs or do anything until they have learned about those detox tools. It's become their rhythm and their routine. And because I think it's horrible, it's unfair for someone to feel the repercussions of those metabolites, and when you're going through a cleanse, for them to start to die off and start to release and not have tools, not have any tools, and just I feel terrible, I'm going to give up. Everyone gives up. That's why so many people give up. They feel terrible and they don't have any they don't know what to do next. They don't have a resource. They don't have the next step of, my brain fog's worse, I feel terrible, my arthritis has flared up, I feel so achy, I feel really depressed and anxious, and then we'll just keep going on your cleanse. It's no. Yeah, they're amazing. They're absolute necessity.
I've got our appointment coming up with Gabby, your naturopath. And so she's no doubt going to get us started on the herbs soon, because this is our third week on program, although we did go on holiday last week, so we had a little bit of a reprieve.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be soon now time. People in our community will start seeing me posting a bit more about that therapeutic side of things with the detox tool. So far it's just been the ferments and the food choices. And so now it's going to be changing up a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how the younger kids go with all that stuff.
Yeah. And it's, it's really interesting. Once again, there's, as a mum, like, we have these fears and these barriers around how are they going to take it, and it tastes disgusting, and how are we going to get it in, and all those sorts of things. But yeah, like I said, I have every trick under the sun. Like, it's just so many. Don't forget who my son is. Like, no, I've had thing on Noah. So and we don't so hot. We don't have to worry so much about those things. We can, there are so many, once again, resources and tools and hacks to get around it. But, I see so many people left alone in that space of like, well, here's your herbal cleanse and I'll see you in 3 months. Like, how the hell are you supposed to manage that? And and I think what I love about the program, which is what you've seen and that you're going through, is you bed down the food and you bed down the routines and you love it and you get your favorites and you take your time to make this beautiful change. So then by the time you go into the therapeutic side, it's not overwhelming and scary. It's actually your routine. And so then you've got so much more chance of implementing it successfully and just doing it really well and not feeling like a failure or I can't do this and I'm going to give up. And
I would agree with that, because I'm sure it's magnified for me because I'm doing 7 people in our families. There's a lot of making and fermenting going on.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Laini. Oh my god.
But it has been a learning curve, I mean, even coming from such a whole food background, that the first week was really hard because of the tantrums from the kids and the tears and the why can't I have that or this, and the mindset of the parenting game was the hardest part of the The second week, we all found our groove. I mean, the kids were still not enthusiastic. The younger kids were still not enthusiastic about it, or the middle kids, I should say. The little two have been, like, Rosie and Max have been amazing. The middle 2 kids, they're more vocal about their disapproval. And so, but the second week, we all just hit our stride. I was in a rhythm. I figured out what they liked. I figured out the rhythm of when I do what I need to do. And then the third week, we went on holiday. This is now the 4th week. And I found that because we took that break, we're now kind of having to go through a mild week 1 again, where we're all readjusting and there's a bit more disapproval. But because I've had that experience of that second week, I know that next week it's probably going to be smooth sailing again. So being able to just, like you said, bed those habits down and it just, as the parent, to get your head around kind of, it's okay. It's going to smooth out and be fine. And so
it will just be fine. I know. And to have the confidence in that it will be absolutely fine. And I think, like, I even have to work with lots of our clients around language and how to actually communicate and talk with your children with successful language around it. Because some parents, I don't even know how to talk about this because it's, it's not a diet and it's not, you haven't done anything wrong and it's not big. There's so much language around it and how to talk to friends and how to say no to the party food. There's all these complexities, which is why people end up not embarking on it. And literally just like, well, what do I say if I go out for dinner and I can't have it? Like, someone asks me for a glass of wine. For some people, that's just so confronting because they haven't had the experience to have the language around it or whatever it is. And so therefore they won't dive in and give it a go. And so, like, it's amazing. Like, I've literally written scripts with some clients. Like, okay, like one client was so overwhelmed about going to this family wedding and saying no to the food and no to the alcohol and what do I say? And, she had this kind of, they all think I'm a nutcase because I'm like got a lab at home fermenting all these things. And she was like, no one gets where I'm coming from. They just don't understand. And And yeah, it was really interesting, you know, literally having this two-way communication and really practicing the language around, no thanks, don't feel like it tonight. You know, like really simple stuff, but we get ourselves so overwhelmed that, you know, it might be a little bit different, or we have to explain ourselves, or we have to justify why we do it, and all these kinds of things. So
I think I've found less of that because we don't really go many places. Maybe. So yeah, so I've had less of needing that script apart from with my children. And so I can absolutely see that would be needed for a lot of people. So it's cool that you do that side as well. I think that'll be pretty rare.
Yeah.
Lisa said that fermented smoothies have changed my life.
Oh.
Yeah, Lisa, I'd love to know how. Please tell us how. Okay, lots of people saying thank you for answering questions. Tasha said Rosie's eyes and skin look so different.
I really agree. I saw that comment and I was like, absolutely.
Wow.
You've got a twinkle going on there, Rosie.
You got a twinkle.
Is that I'm getting ready for school twinkle?
Are you ready for school? Going to school next week?
Yeah.
Year one.
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? Yeah. Michelle, that's totally fine. Thank you. Okay. Here's a good question. Is it possible to do the program while also following a vegan diet? We've discussed this before, Kirsty, but let's hear it again.
Yeah, beautiful. So it is possible to do the program on a vegetarian diet, and certainly with supervision and with guidance from us. Absolutely, you can do that. A vegan diet is very, very difficult to grow your gut microbiome and also to repair your gut microbiome, because the amount of amino acids that we need to be able to do that. So we need a lot of glycine, we need a lot of proline, we need a lot of lysine, for example. There's all these beautiful amino acids that literally seal up those epithelial cells and support the gut lining to repair those holes and that intestinal permeability. So you cannot find those amino acids in vegan food. So it's very, very, very difficult to do that. We've had many vegans that we have worked with when we discuss what are some of the things that you would feel comfortable doing in this gut healing phase. So for some, it's having some eggs. For some, it's having some broth, which is the most healing for intestinal permeability issues. So it's really about working through the key building blocks and those key nutrients, what someone's comfortable with, because I've never seen it possible to rebuild your gut microbiome on a vegan diet. So there has to be some wonderful conversation around that. And how can that work for the period of time for healing the gut?
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Where's that name? Oh no, we don't know the name.
No.
I did a little video over it's on YouTube, and it's also in our Facebook group. It's all about our with Kirsty's guidance, we developed, we had some conversations. I shouldn't say you helped us develop it, but we had some conversations around what would be best to go into a vegan keto sort of gut healing.
Yeah.
And so we did a whole video that discussed a lot of these principles. It wouldn't be suitable for the Kickstarter program that we're on, because we've literally just removed a lot of like nuts and seeds just for this 8-week period of time. Then we can start introducing those things again. But if you listen to that video, it will spell out the importance of those types of amino acids that Kirsty's just spoken about.
Yeah. And it's, it's about your goals, and it's about the period of time that, that you're comfortable to go into that space. And it's a really interesting dynamic and a really interesting space. I've had so many people that have worked personally with me one-on-one that have started out vegan and then have realized that their body really, really needed those amino acids and that protein. And and a lot of them haven't gone back to being on a vegan diet because they realize that it actually is what they need. So
it's interesting for me because even, since I was as young as Rosie here, I've never liked much animal products. I've never been vegan or vegetarian for long periods of time, but I've never been that comfortable consuming much of it.
Yeah.
And so there was actually one of the reasons that I probably didn't jump on for myself early.
I remember you saying that a couple of years ago. Like, I just don't know if I could handle, because it's a perception that on the program you eat truckloads of meat.
Yeah.
So
it's truckloads of veggies more than anything, isn't it? But I have been surprised pleasantly that I've had no aversion to having broth every day, having so many eggs, having the meat, and I just haven't felt that aversion. Now, I know everyone goes on a vegan diet for different reasons. And mine are probably different to many other people's. But, yeah, I actually haven't felt that physical resistance to it that I expected that I might. So it's been interesting for me.
Yeah. And I noticed that too. And what I see that people that have it, putting the ethical reasons aside and so forth, some people just feel really queasy having red meat, and it just does not feel right for them. And then when we delve in and look at the reason why, often it's because they just don't have enough stomach acid to digest the protein. And your stomach acid is like a muscle. If you don't flex it, you lose it. And so the less protein and meat that you eat, the less stomach acid that you have. And so it's this self-perpetuating cycle that then you eat less because it doesn't feel right, and then you eat less, and then it doesn't feel right. And then suddenly you're a vegetarian or a vegan, but it's actually about the function of your gut and its robust capabilities of digesting that protein through the hydrochloric acid in your gut. So a lot of people build up their hydrochloric acid, like was possibly happening for you, through the fermented foods and through taking out the carbohydrates, and then it just feels better. Feels like, okay, I can do this. I can, for this period of time, I can do this because I know that the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. My dad doesn't have much red meat because he feels it has a reaction in his gut, and he also has low stomach acid. So that's interesting learning that I'll be passing on to him.
Yeah.
I would be so interested to know how we will get it into them. We need all the tricks almost before we start. The worry is huge. Yeah, look, I get that the worry can be huge, especially if your kids are having, my kids have found it challenging for that. Well, some of my kids have found it challenging for that first week. And they were even on a whole food diet, but they just loved their carbs. They loved making pancakes every day with maple syrup on top. They loved all that. One child in particular, just carbs and sugar. She just loves that. And so even more so if your kids are not already having a whole food diet, I can understand that the worry that a parent would face. What's been really cool is to see, one thing that my kids would never want is dinner leftovers for lunch. It was just this big block in their mind. They just thought, no, that's not lunch, that's dinner.
Yeah, there's a 5-star cafe going on for every meal.
I'm sorry, no, this is what we're having. And it did not take long at all for them to now, I remember for lunch today, I warmed up some Sancho bao, which is the kids' favorite dinner recipe that we've had this entire time. So I warmed it up for lunch today, didn't I, Rosie? And then I said, lunch is ready, guys. And Max comes up and he says, Mum, is there salad with it? I'm like, yeah, buddy, here's all your veggies. And
awesome.
So now they haven't batted an eyelid at it. And so it is an interesting thing as a parent to worry. But I think sometimes we can worry too much, and it's just a matter of going through that resistance period that will inevitably be there.
Yeah.
And then finding your flow with it.
Yeah. And you've got to be well slept, and you've got to be well nourished, and you've got to be resilient, and you've got to have, some time out and go for a bushwalk or whatever it may be. You can't expect to go and embark on something like this when you're tired, undernourished, worn out, don't have the backup, you're not prepared. You've got to go in there with all of your resources as if you were going to play a grand final in a sport. You've got to be ready for it, and you've got to be resilient. I've never seen, and I deal with full-on sensory kids that have chicken nuggets and white rice, and that's it. I deal with the full gamut, and I've never seen a child not come on program ever. I've seen really hairy, scary stuff like day 3, and this is the really extreme children with needs that are non-verbal. And I've seen like day 3, nil by mouth. And it's like, oh, hold on. And, you know, it's always day 4. And, you know, they come back around and they start eating. And like, I've never seen it with a stable, strong, committed parent. I've never seen a child not come over to the food and just love it.
That is amazing.
It is amazing, but I've seen lots of parents that give it a go and then they lose their nerve and, oh, look, just have a little bit of this for now and then we'll go on program tomorrow, and, oh, we'll just leave this in and so forth. And it just allows the microbes to keep growing back and putting you back. So there's no need to worry. Like I've seen it all. I've lived it all. So.
I know. Yeah, your can-do attitude about all this was very encouraging. I remember when Rosie got her test results back and you guys were like, Rosie has to go on program. Like, you guys never said that about our elders.
No, I was like non-negotiable here. I can't unsee this now. This is non-negotiable.
Like when Kaya's test result came back, you're like, yep, she's got significant parasites. She's got these overgrowths. Let me know if you want to do it. We're like, yep, okay, let's do it. When Rosie's came back, I remember both you and Gabby and maybe Alyssa all said to me, look, she really has to do this. And I was like, oh, that's a different response. And so she really must need it. But I was not ready. I was like, I can't fathom doing that with her. We're going to have to do the whole family on board. And that was all too much. So I literally took months to kind of get myself ready. And then I jumped in. And, so can you put your foot down? Thank you. And so, being able to just, I guess, lean on that positive can-do attitude from you and your whole team has just been really empowering for me because I needed that.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. Like every single person on the Culture Wellness team has been through the program. Oh, okay, there's one guy in the IT department that hasn't, but I'm getting him on there. Anyway, so, everyone's been through the program, and especially all the coaches, we've all sent our kids through we've been in the trenches.
Yeah.
And especially a couple of the coaches, their children have been through significant, mental health issues like, you guys have been through and had that, really quite confronting times in their lives. So they get it and they've got all the hacks and they've got all the tricks and they've got got all the tools. So it is pretty cool to have supportive, like, you got this. It's okay.
The amount of times that I've just shot a quick email to Alyssa saying, this is happening, what do I do?
And then it's like, normal, and then just do it.
Actually, it's so funny because now that we're doing it the second time around with the younger kids, I don't need to speak to Alyssa as much, but the first time that we were taking our elders through, we had weekly Zoom calls with Alyssa, and the amount of times that she would say, yep, that's normal. Yeah. I think that was half of what she said to us.
I know. And sometimes I have to actually say, like, absolutely what you're going through is, like, it's big and it's your journey and it's massive. So because I'm here going, and, it doesn't take away from what you're going through. It's just like, we've seen it. And it still doesn't mean that it's not big in your world. But I have actually had to say to a couple of families, like, I really feel what you're going through, but don't be shocked that I'm not, oh my God, it's not because I don't care. It's just like, I just had 3 consults just before and they were all doing the same thing. So.
Yeah. Erin has said, the language around my children is a huge one for me. I find I struggle a lot with it. Even the dreaded Zupa Duper, it's so hard because those sweeties are so normal and accepted. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it is. And it's wonderful to practice with your, with your children about what to say. And I also really enjoy inviting my children's friends around and getting them in the kitchen and exposing them to some really fun, awesome recipes. And not everyone's household has a family member, whether it be mum, dad or nana or whoever, that is in the kitchen giving them all of that nurturing and love and time. And so we can't have that expectation of all of the other kids in our children's lives. And so, it's up to us as role models to if there is a barrier, or if your child's like, my best friend just keeps saying, oh my God, yuck, you know, why are you eating that? Like, get them around, make it fun, like get them involved and get them inspired. And, you know, the amount of, you know, Maya's friends that have butter sandwiches, like Noah's butter sandwiches, the little sushi with the butter, and like all these things that they would never have eaten if they hadn't have come over and had a big joke about it and made them and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and making the smoothies and the gummies and the chocolates and the ferments and ice blocks and just allocating your really undivided adult attention, because it's not a common thing in a lot of households. And so if you want your children to change and you want them to feel secure, you know, let's step up and be role models in that space for all the families involved.
I remember maybe a week or two ago, we had the first opportunity for me to do that. We had our 5 kids, and they each had a friend over for the entire day.
Oh, football team.
Yeah, so I had 10 kids to feed for the entire day on program, basically.
Ooh.
And so, like, being new, like, it was week 2, so I was still fresh. And anyway, so I decided to do like a chicken Caesar salad type of thing. And so I actually just had the whole table with all the different bowls for, like, the, you know, chicken in one bowl, lettuce in another, the mayonnaise that's in the Delicious book, with some roasted garlic and lemon to make this aioli that is delicious. And we always have it in the fridge ready to go now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We just had it in different bowls, so the kids could just pick and choose what they wanted. Yeah. They weren't forced into having it all mixed together with the aioli. One kid just, you know, wanted, you know, the bacon and the chicken, and that's all. And I was like, oh, you know, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was an interesting experience. And then we had some, what did we have for a treat afterwards? I can't quite remember. But, like, yeah, like, it was a successful day. I had built it up to be quite a mountain to climb. At the end of the day, I was like, oh, okay. Well,
that was really cool. Yeah. I have a dear friend many years ago. She was like, oh, I don't ever know what to cook for you. Now, this is a long time ago when we were, like, right in the thick of it. And I said, okay, so let's do cold rolls and put it all out on the table. So exactly what you've just said there, like, you know, there's all the different components of the cold roll. So there's the chicken and there's some lettuce and carrots and whatever. And put it all out on the table. And for your family, you can then have, like, the little wraps, you know, the rice wraps. And then for my family, you can put some lettuce cups there. So we're all eating off the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. So for probably the last 7 years now, every time we go to her house, when we go down to Adelaide, bless her, she's like, we're on again. This is my comfort zone. It's on.
It's so good.
It's just so cool. I love it so much. So,
and I love that she's making the effort for you.
Oh, I know. And that's her social currency that she feels really comfortable with. And I always joke, I'm like, you know that Guttalicious is sitting right there, like, we could just go to town, because she's got all my, like, cookbooks and stuff, and I love it. I just love it. But we had that first awkward conversation where she was like, I haven't invited you around for 6 months because I actually just too scared to. And I was like, oh, come on, let's sort it out. Let's hack it. So
yeah, we often find having 5 kids, your dinner invites go down already. and then owning a health food store, they go down again because
I know.
They're not being on programs, so, like, we never get invites. But that's okay. We're inviting people to our house. It's
exactly. And I always laugh now. I have friends that I go around and I'm like, did you just put that ferment on the bench just because you knew I was coming over? Like, is that why you did it?
Oh, funny.
Okay.
Lisa answered our question. Lisa was the one who said that fermented smoothies have changed her life. We said, why, how? And she said, because I feel more amazing than I have in the last 10 years.
Oh, my God.
Veg and fruit and fabulous blends every day. I was starving myself by eating a lot of terrible food. Oh, it's so true. What's that cliche saying that we hear a lot? We're overfed and undernourished.
Yes.
I feel so much better now. Now I'm going to work on my gut. Thank you both. You've changed my life. Oh, Lisa, I love you.
That's so cool.
Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. That's beautiful. Okay, Louise has said, so once you go through the gut healing program, can you then go back to being vegan if there was some compromising for that period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And on program, you find out a lot about yourself, and you find out a lot about your genetic susceptibilities and what's really important for you to keep in your life, because that's what you need for maintenance. And then what are some of the things that you really don't need to worry so much about when your body's back in balance again. So you find out what that wonderful maintenance is, what that wonderful set point is. And like I said, I know a lot of people that keep some meat in their diet, whether it be once a week or they keep some broth in or so forth, because they actually just feel better and they know that they need it for a little bit of maintenance. Some people, if they just still don't feel quite right, they might have some desiccated liver capsules, because at least they know that they're getting in those amino acids. So yeah, we work with people to find out, okay, well, where is this? So you're still at optimal health. And, you know, your philosophy and what you want is also maintained as well.
Love that. It's important. Okay, so Karen, I've just seen the time, Kirsty. We are just kind of going through the live chat thread, and we haven't even touched many of the questions over that have been pre-submitted. So we're I might just try to fly through a little bit quicker for just a bit more time, and then we'll see how we go. Karen said, I had a question about Parkinson's disease. When you mentioned it earlier, could you please explain a bit more about the brain-gut link?
Oh, my gosh. And you asked me to be quick. Honestly, Laini. Yes, there is a significant, wonderful, well-researched, there's very, very many correlations between what's going on in your gut and conditions like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. So when our gut is leaky, our brain becomes leaky, and those toxic metabolites start leaking into the brain and start attaching to different receptors and different neural pathways in our brain. So Parkinson's, for example, we have dopamine receptors in our brain in the basal ganglia area part of our brain that's responsible for movement. And so when those neurons and those receptors are inflamed, we start to see changes. So there's enormous links. The ketogenic diet is absolutely the game changer, extremely well founded in that space. And Dr. Perlmutter is a wonderful resource to get started on. And it's certainly something that we help people with.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the succinct but awesome answer. Someone else has said, for kids with significant sensory issues, and food range limitation, do you have a recommendation for staggered introduction of key foods and then jumping on program once some of those key things are in the diet? Or just jump into it and then hope that some of those sensitivities decrease with the die-off?
Okay. So most of the time, it is literally rip it off like a Band-Aid, get in there and get the job done. Because if you've got to that level of significant sensory issues, there's such an enormous overgrowth and imbalance that drip feeding, it doesn't work because the imbalance is too great. So I've worked with lots of families doing it both ways over the years, and now we pretty much just jump in. And when the die-off happens, we are really well prepared because we've got the detox tools sorted out at the right level and we're ready to go. So I haven't seen it really done successfully with bringing it down. You just have to go for it.
Do you see much die-off before the herbals and the detox tools come in? Do you see that die-off happening even just with the basic diet changes?
Yeah. I've seen people have significant die-off from one day of just not having, carbs and sugars. Yeah. A lot of people have got really active infections and overgrowth. And so it's like a child, if they're not fed for a day, they will chuck a banana,
Yeah. And we've seen a few of those in our house this last few weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you don't feed those overgrowths for a day, you'll get die-off significantly. Yeah.
Okay, and so and what does that die-off look like usually?
Yeah, so die-off can be anything from neurological. So you start to see, like the tantrums, the lack of resilience, the inability to make any decisions at all. And children just, you can't actually reason with them, like when we're talking about children. And so massive behavior. I see tics a lot. So all the time. So tics is a really big one that will escalate. Brain fog, memory loss, and then rashes, bloating, diarrhea.
Tummy pain as well.
Tummy pain. I've actually seen vomiting quite a lot. So kind of everything that you've dealt with escalated. So I don't ever see a new symptom coming out in die-off. It's just really what you're dealing with. But if you don't have the right detox tools, it's big. It's sort of really flared up.
And would you say it's something that a couple of our kids have found is that they call them blackouts. They're not really blackouts. They just they get up quickly, and then their vision is lost, and their legs are weak, and they're like, "Oh, Mum, I'm really weak. What just happened?" So, would you say that's a symptom of die-off as well?
Yeah. So that's really the kidneys not being able to balance out, and you've got your blood pressure, and you've got your body's trying to pump all of that electrolytes around. So interestingly, parasites, as you know, release ammonia as their byproduct, and the kidneys have to get rid of the ammonia. So if that's happening for the kids as they're kind of, coming off the foods and getting ready to go into the herbals, then there's probably quite a significant amount of ammonia that's scooting around their bodies. You can often get peripheral stuff going on with ammonia, and your wee smells like ammonia. Like there's all sorts of things. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So when I was talking before about getting Rosie back to school, the detox tools are the absolute make or break between her going back really successfully or really struggling. So I had a child this week that I've been working with, and he was starting to get anxious about going back to school. So his tics really flared up. And so, we had to ramp up all of his detox tools again to be able to bring down that inflammatory response that the stress was creating. And we've found the right amount of detox tools per day to manage the stress response of going back to school, because the tics were really, really impacting his life. So
it goes to show the importance of being able to keep in touch with your care provider, like being able to actually say, "Hey, this is happening. What can I do?"
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Soccer says, Kirsty, do any of the programs reverse SLE? And you'll have to tell us what SLE means, please.
Yeah. So there's numerous things that are called SLE. So she might have to put it up there.
Right. So, let us know, Soccer.
Yeah. I need a bit of a context on that one.
Okay. Welcome, Julie. Nice to see you. Okay. No name. What would be the best way to increase stomach acid if you find apple cider vinegar painful on your teeth, even if drunk through a straw? I like the taste, just feels awful on my teeth.
Okay. Interesting. So if it feels really painful on your teeth, I would say you've probably got some biofilm in your mouth, and your oral microbiome is probably out of balance. And so doing some oral microbiome balancing is very important. So coconut oil pulling, doing some peroxide rinses, doing some tongue scraping. So a lack of stomach acid is often caused by what's going on in your mouth or your nasal passages. So sensitive teeth, all that kind of stuff is the microbes are all out of whack. So address that one first, and then you'll be able to handle the ACV. But increasing stomach acid, yes, you can take HCl tablets, which is the hydrochloric acid tablet. So that will really actively increase it. We have specific herbs that we use to be able to support that acid production. Salt is a really good one, and making sure that you're eating enough protein is a really good one. And not drinking water with your meal is very important. But I'd be looking at your oral microbiome for reasons why the ACV is not happening for you.
Fascinating. I love these chats we have because I learn so many things every time. Yeah. Another person has asked, how would you go? I love this question. How would you go doing the program while being at school and needing to do school lunches? I literally emailed Alyssa a couple of days ago with an SOS. I was like, going back to school next week, need some ideas. And because I know she's the queen of school lunchbox ideas.
Oh my God, she is. Yes.
Yeah.
So I did a whole 8-week program on school lunchboxes. It was literally like confidence in the kitchen school lunchboxes.
Oh.
So let's dig that up for you guys. And because I did it live last year in term 1, but it's all pre-recorded with all of the recipes and all of the ingredients list and the guides and everything. So
awesome.
Yes, like it's the replay, so it's not live, but I do so much Q&A in the 2 hours of that cooking class that I don't think there's any more questions left. So the replay is awesome. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's dig that up because it's all there and there's some great, awesome ones. If you are on program, you need to do some tweaks of, take this ingredient out and put this one in and so forth. But I guide you through that in the replays.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I did actually just make I fermented mango and had some frozen berries, and I just whizzed them up and made some fruit leathers.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a big dehydrator at the warehouse in the kitchen, so I just sent it up there and had it dehydrated. Jordan brought it back tonight, and so we had it tonight, and it was beautiful.
So good.
Nice. Yeah. So that's definitely going in the school lunch boxes. But having that variety and stuff that they actually want to eat and that their kids won't make fun of, that their friends won't make fun of, is a big deal for them, massive deal for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I know some kids that they've gone, you've given them an awesome breakfast, and being in ketosis and on program means you become quite fat adapted. So your kids sometimes don't want to eat much at school. And so it's not this massive concern if they only eat a tiny bit. It's about what you nourish them with before they go. And then, of course, when they come home and, like for my kids, I would give them dinner like at 4:30 or, 4 o'clock when they got home. Just while they were getting used to things and starting to change things up a little bit. So we don't have to fit and, be in this kind of constant rule books of you need to have your recess and then you need to have your lunch and it's got to look like this and it's got to be in, the amount of parents that, contact me and go, oh, I'm on program, but they've got to have fruit break. And I'm like, they don't have to have fruit at fruit break. They can have fermented carrots or can have like other foods or fermented fruits or something. You just need to talk to your teacher about what's going on. It doesn't have to be all of these things that we're conditioned that we have to do. So.
Yeah, very true. And I like the early dinner idea because they always come back from school so hungry and just okay, well, here's dinner. I like that idea. I think I'll be doing that.
Well, Maya's like, I didn't have enough time to eat, and she's like, I was too busy with this sport or doing this or doing that or playing. So I just don't push it. I just make sure that when she gets home that she's getting really well nourished.
I love that. Yeah, I used to stress about a couple of our kids not eating much at school, but I do like your advice. Okay, so let's. What did you say? Rosie's telling me about her lunchbox. You can tell me that again later. I thought it might be something I could share with people.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Scrolling down. Okay, my son expresses a lot of emotional anger. Do you think it could be related to gut health? That was Louise's question.
Yes.
Anything to add?
So emotional anger, definitely gut health. Also heavy metal toxicity is another one. So very high copper can put people into a real spin emotionally. So yeah, there's a couple of things that we would look into there. But kids just, they shouldn't behave like that. Like we've normalized all these behaviors and tantrums and stuff. But you ask the old timers, kids never behaved like they do now, and we need to go back and look at why.
Thank you. Soccer has said, Laini, what test did you put Rosie on before the program? Kaya had the mental blank microbiome test.
She had the microbiome.
Yeah, had a different one. What was that called?
Rosie had the CMN, which is the complete microbial analysis, or complete microbial mapping. And the reason why we did that was because I wanted to have a bit more of a look into Rosie's small intestinal issues. So to see if there was any SIBO stuff going on, which there was. So just from looking at her symptoms and listening to what was going on for her, I needed to know what was happening in that small intestinal picture. So that was why we did the CMM. So sometimes we do both for people.
Someone has asked, is lettuce okay on program?
So on program, right at the start, during the sort of the initial 8 weeks on Kickstarter, everything's cooked. So all the vegetables are cooked because they're very easy to digest. You can assimilate all the nutrients. So that's the tricky one, that you'll get into. Lettuce, when you look at nutrient density, it doesn't have any nutrients. It's got a wonderful amount of water in it. But, a lot of people miss it because it's crunchy, or they miss it because it's easy, or it's what they're used to. But no, we need everything to be cooked.
I didn't hear that. No, I did know that was the case.
Or fermented, right? So it can be uncooked but fermented, and then it's going to be okay.
We've been going well with the fermented raw carrots. That's been really good this last week with the kids. We've been still having quite a lot of cucumber and guacamole. I know that we can ferment the guacamole. That's one step that's on my list to do very soon. But yeah, having those fresh, crunchy, summery veggies. Actually, even in winter, our kids just really struggle with cooked veggies as opposed to raw. So it's one thing that I kind of just have gone, I've put too much of that in there. Kind of as just my own survival mechanism to go, here, kids, you love this stuff. Here, have it raw. Yeah. Haven't been perfect on it, I have to say.
Yeah, and it's really hard to digest all those things, especially cucumbers. The seeds in cucumbers are really hard to digest if you've got gut issues and digestive issues.
Wow. Okay.
So a lot of people see all those things in their stool and see bits of lettuce in their stool, and when there's undigested food passing through, it just feeds parasites, it feeds all of the pathogens and keeps them alive. So we don't want that to happen. Otherwise, you're on program forever. It just keeps going and going. Right. Yeah. So
thanks for the pep talk. How have you gone with green beans fermented? Like, have you ever fermented green beans and then just eaten them?
I have never, ever fermented green beans or snow peas. So because we just cook the beans, like we're just so used to it being in, and because my kids will eat all those things cold after they've been cooked. Right. So it's just it was a non-negotiable. It's like, I cooked it. Now you'll eat it whether it's hot or cold. So, I've never done it. I've never fermented the beans.
I'll let you know how it goes. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
This is a good question. Can you possibly explain how the fermenting reduces the carbs in fruit? I'm currently on a keto plan and missing fruit so much.
That's so cool. So when you have your fruit, it's got a lot of fructose, it's got a lot of glucose in it, so the sugars. When you add a bacteria to that, so a starter culture, the bacteria in the starter culture consumes the sugars, so consumes the glucose and the fructose, and when it consumes it, it multiplies. And so it's constantly consuming it and eating up the sugars, those little bacteria, and they're constantly multiplying. And that's how you create probiotics in your ferments and how it consumes and eats up all the sugars. So, of course, the longer that you leave those guys in that sugar medium out on the bench in its optimal temperature of around sort of 22 to 24, the longer you leave that out on the bench for them to do it, the more probiotics it creates. And then it reduces down all the sugar. So it's like a little Pac-Man. You just go in and just all these little bacteria going around eating all the sugars in the foods. And you're just left with probiotics and it's not going to be zero, but very, 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 very minimal sugars.
And you know that you've left it too long when you try to take the lid off and it just fizzes out all over the bench and it's just so active. Like those Pac-Men have just multiplied like crazy.
Yeah. It's just amazing, right? Like it's so cool.
It is. I wish we were on program years ago. I've had quite a few people commenting on my post saying, oh, I wish that I had access to something like this when my kids were little.
Yeah.
Okay, so Soccer has clarified that SLE was systematic lupus. You can pronounce that third word. Oh, you can't see it there, can you, on screen?
Systematic lupus. Yeah. So that obviously is an autoimmune condition. And once again, it goes back to how your gut is releasing inflammatory compounds. So
I just misplaced the hole on this and it just went down my top. Sorry.
That's something I would do though. Like, I'm only laughing because it's like I'm surprised it's not me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think the question was, would fermented foods and the program help an autoimmune condition like that? And yes, absolutely. Yeah. Any autoimmune condition, you've got to look at your gut. It doesn't matter what it is. If you've got an autoimmune condition, you must look into your gut health.
Beautiful. Okay, we have almost caught up on the live questions, which is amazing. Julie has said, how would someone go doing the program, or have you had a client with an eating disorder that has been successful?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Unfortunately, what we find with the eating disorders, it is undiagnosed parasitic or worm infections that have just been undiagnosed and completely out of control. So yes, we have a lot.
Someone who I love has an eating disorder, and the program has helped. It hasn't resolved entirely, but she hasn't finished on the program. She's still sort of midway through.
Right.
And so, it's something that I've noticed an improvement on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, Kelly has said, oh wow, my 6, almost 7-year-old has major outbursts, and I've never been able to understand how he could be so angry. Isn't it cool to get this insight and go, oh wow, okay, it could actually be this over here, and I can fix it by doing X, Y, Z. See what's going on.
I know those big angry outbursts is a very hot liver that is just not managing life, and and where's all that toxicity coming from? For me, from looking on, it's like, oh, it's so easy, but it's like, it's not.
You're living and breathing this stuff every day, but this is such new information to most of the population, and it's just so, the word that I have felt as a parent has just been so liberating.
Oh, that's so cool to hear that.
Yeah, because I mean, like I won't spend too much longer on this because I know that I've shared it before, but just watching someone you love struggle so much and suffer so much, and not really knowing how to help them, in our experience, that those mental health issues with anxiety being so crippling, saying, oh yeah, let's work on your breath work, let's go to 20 different psychology appointments, let's go, and not really seeing improvement, not really. And it was just such a hazy, like, is this working? Is it not? I don't really know if this is the right direction. Have we got the right psychologist? Should we try someone else? And then actually just getting that test result back, and you going, oh, well, this is why she's struggling with this, because these guys are doing that, and that's creating this effect in the body here, and that's why. And then going, this is how you fix it. ABC. and then us doing ABC in the space of 6 weeks and actually seeing it work is just liberating. So I'm not sure how.
And it's so cool because my boy Noah, he's got all of his ups and downs and all the stuff that he's been through, and I love that word that you've used, because he has he'll have hiccups and something will go wrong for him, and he'll have he won't be able to manage himself, or something will be wrong. And it's so liberating for me to, like, oh, sweetheart, you need some chlorella, or, or he needed some neurotonic herbs, or there's, he just needs more detox tools, or, we do enemas with Noah, and he'll say to me, I need to do an enema. I feel really toxic. I can't manage myself. Mm-hmm. And then we can help him, and then he just is able to manage that and turn it around, as opposed to, I had 5 years of a child that couldn't speak and tell me what was going on and was completely nonverbal, with like, what? Is there anything that's going to help? And then now just to have like the little toolkit of like, whoa, he's fired up. The hormones are crazy. Okay, we need to do X, Y, and Z to support him today. It's knowledge is power, and like the stress levels and anxiety levels in the house and the family and feeling completely out of control. It's just not there. It's just so wonderful. It's really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for answering my question. I've been fermenting plums and my kitties love them, but I worry about the potential alcohol level. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So if you left it for a long, long time, like weeks on the bench, and then if you left it for 3 months in the fridge or something crazy, there would be a minuscule amount of alcohol. But, it's not something that we worry about. Like we have tested and gone through that process, and it's so minimal that I wouldn't worry about it. But you can just not leave it on the bench for weeks and weeks and weeks and not have it in the fridge for 3 months, and you'll be fine.
That's good to know. We actually fermented plums too to make a plum pudding and plum pie, I should say. And we were drinking the kefir that they had been fermenting in as a bit of a soft drink treat during dinner.
Yeah.
And, Jordan said, "Oh, I think this has turned into a bit of a home brew." And so we actually threw it away, but we were nowhere near weeks fermenting, so we couldn't.
No. And it's, as an adult, it's what our brain tells us that we think that we're drinking, right? So it's that cognitive sort of conditioning that, oh, I think this tastes like alcohol, so it must be a shot of tequila. So this is a problem.
Yeah. Tasha has said, is there a list of fruit and veg we can and shouldn't ferment?
There's really not anything that you can't ferment.
There might be things that are maybe less successful than others, perhaps, or not really?
No. Like for the bananas, like I like to ferment them and then you like mash them up and use them in the pancakes or in the yogurts and those sorts of things. I've literally just fermented everything except for green beans, but someone else has done that, so that's awesome. I don't think so. It's sometimes like for sweet potato and pumpkin and those sorts of things, just cook it first and then ferment it. So you can either cook it and leave it in its chunks and then ferment it, or you can mash it and then ferment it with yogurt stirred through as you would do like the guacamole with the mashed avocado. That's actually a really good one. You know how you've got your cool smoothies and you put the sweet potato in there? You can still do that, but just ferment after you've mashed and then put them in the little ice cube trays and they're ready to go. So,
yeah, true.
Yeah, some things you just have to cook first. But even like beetroot, for example, you don't need to cook first. You can just ferment that straight up.
Right. Yeah, it's something that I've found a lot of people in our community are like, oh, that's so interesting but scary. And honestly, though, like that is one thing that you don't need to be mentally ready for. You can just jump straight into that one and just play with it, because honestly, it's not scary. It's not gross. It sounds disgusting. I know. I avoided doing it for ages before. But now it's just like just part of like there's always some jars on our table fermenting something, and it's awesome, honestly. Someone has said fermented green beans are great. I added in some raspberry leaves for tannin. Okay. All right. Jordan's just walked in the door from basketball. Welcome home, Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've now gone through all of the live questions. I'm conscious that it's 10 p.m. down south, 9 o'clock where we are. We've got so many questions that were submitted earlier that we haven't actually gotten to all of them. I've noticed that some of these have actually been asked by people who are live as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we can do with that, because I do think it's probably too late to keep on going. But I know, Kirsty, you've actually got a Q&A session next week, right?
Yes, that's right. Hang on, where are you? There you are. I clicked in a tab to have a look at the other questions, and then I lost you in my 50 million tabs I've got open. Yeah. Yes, so every month at Cultured Wellness, I do like a bit of a Q&A session specifically on our program. So like if people are thinking, actually, I think this is what I want to do, and the actual nitty gritty of, what do you do and when do you do it and how do you log on and what would I be eating and just all the nitty gritty, I am going to be doing one of those next Wednesday night. It's in a Zoom call, and so you can either choose to have your camera on or off. A lot of people unmute themselves and actually like ask the question, would this work for my family if I've got, or would this work for me in these conditions? Or a lot of people want to ask me whether they need to work one-on-one with one of our health coaches or do as a self-paced guided program online. So absolutely. That's next Wednesday. So if you think that you would like to inquire more about the Cultured Wellness program, it's a really great space to ask those kinds of questions and ask about what kind of testing and all sorts of things.
I do actually love that there's those two options, that you can have that guided, what we've been doing with our elders last year, having those weekly Zoom calls with Alyssa, the health coach. We needed that. Like, it was a whole new world for us. And, with our elders facing some challenges that were difficult, like it was, I kind of needed that. We both needed it. She sat with me. We had these weekly calls. It was accountability as well. Yeah. But then this time, I'm actually, even though I am still touching base with Alyssa, but less, and I'm relying more on just the resources that are there in the green program that you've got there. So you do have that choice when you go on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But I have just put a link there for you guys to sign up for that Q&A next week if this is something that is, piquing your interest. If you feel like maybe that's something that you'd need to consider for your family.
Yeah. And I think considering everything that's happening at the moment, it is a really good time to focus on your gut health, because there's been enough inside time and enough stress response, because everyone's either scared about catching COVID or going out, or like there's so much going on that I don't think as a collective, we've ever been so overwhelmingly stressed probably since the war, the previous World War. So everyone's gut health has been given a really big beating over the last couple of years, just from the pressure. And so it's a really important thing to at least get a test done and investigate how have you pulled through over this last time? How are things going for you and your health and your gut health? And there's been a lot of indoor time, just not our usual sort of way of how we live. So very important.
I've actually felt a little niggling for some time that I think I might have a bit of a hormonal imbalance from lack of sleep and extra stress over the last 6 years or so.
Yeah.
And so I've sent away for that hormone test, and I think it's actually due back any day now. So I'll be having a meeting with Gabby soon to dissect that as well.
Yeah.
But look, thank you so much. Oh, I actually forgot. You have a special offer for our beautiful community, because the fermenting side of things, obviously you've got the program you can sign up for if you want to go whole hog and really dig in and solve some issues that are going on and feel fantastic. You've got also the ferments that are an integral part of that, but you can also just go with the ferments if that's something that you feel really ready for, and that's something you can just kind of just do.
Yeah.
And it's actually been I feel like the ferments have been a really big part of I was bloating so much. I remember talking to maybe 2 years ago.
I remember seeing it once. Remember I came around and you're like, what is going on with my gut today? Remember that?
I do, yeah. It was filming for the Fiber Challenge or something.
Yeah, and you were like, something does not feel right for me.
Yeah. And that had been going on for some time. And so then I just started having the ferments, just having the kefir. I probably had more kefir than I did yogurt at that point. Now I've upped the yogurt quite a lot because my palate has, come around to it. I really quite enjoy it in my smoothies now. And yeah, I did find that just that alone was really had a positive impact on my bloating.
Yeah.
And I know that they're very effective with helping with anxiety, particularly, right? There's a lot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I recorded a podcast about 2 weeks ago, and I think it was released about 1 or 2 weeks ago with a dear friend, Steph Lowe, and I actually unpacked some pretty amazing research that I've just been reading on COVID specifically, and our recovery and the severity of COVID, or any type of virus. It doesn't need to just be COVID. And for every gram of fermented foods, in this research study specifically sauerkraut, but for every gram of fermented foods, your recovery from COVID changed for 34%. You had a 34% increased chance of wonderful recovery and severity of COVID by introducing like every gram of sauerkraut per day. And so like there's so many cool research studies on it, like fermented foods are absolute game changers, got to have them, you know, mental health, all this kind of stuff. But then when I was like, whoa, like talk about a stat for every gram, 34%. I'm like,
that's incredible.
Awesome.
Well, like every other culture does it, right? Ours is like the only culture that seems to have lost that habitual daily thing that we do. So Kirsty has actually, I do have a link here. Let me just grab it. She's actually offered us for the Whole Food Collective community 3 culture starters for the price of 2. And so there's your apple juice kefir, which our family, I would say that's our dead set favorite. It is literally just like having a fancy apple cider drink. Like it is beautiful. You love it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the coconut water kefir, which tell us what you think about coconut water kefir. The fizzy coconut water. Yummy, she says. So she loves that one. And then there's also the cultured yogurt, which is a daily staple in our smoothies. We've upped it from, we started with just a couple of tablespoons just while we got used to it. And then it's up to, you know, half a cup each in our smoothies now, and it tastes beautiful. Like we even had, I even put that large amount in smoothies for the kids' friends the other day, or without kind of thinking, oh, I should probably put less in for new people. They were fine, thankfully, but they loved the smoothie. Like it was a mango passion fruit with like heaps of that cultured yogurt, the coconut kefir, some MCT oil, some cauliflower, avocado. It was all in there. It was beautiful. They loved it. So you've got those 3, plus you've got an orange juice kefir. There's quite a few to choose from depending on your preferences and all the rest. Oh, careful not to type there. Yeah. And so, I'm going to put the link in for that. I'm going to send an email around to everyone tomorrow morning. If you can't see the comments, this system is telling me that it's not going to post to all of the destinations, whether that's Facebook or YouTube. I don't know.
And also there's the bug boosting bundle there as well. So it's obviously a play on words with the bug boosting being fermenting. But a lot of people, when they start out on their fermenting journey, they get quite overwhelmed about what jars do I use, what size jar do I use, how do I do it, all of that kind of stuff. And I am a huge fan of kilner jars. And so if you are literally like right at the start of your fermenting journey, and even just the, you know, the decision making around what jar do I get is enough to kind of stop you in your tracks and not get fermenting, there's that bug boosting bundle, which has got my go-to jar that I literally use at home, and then also some cultures as well, because I noticed people were overwhelmed. I don't know what jar to get, so I'm just not going to start. So I'm like, okay, let's get the jar that I use, and then you can start. So
having the equipment ready to go makes the world of difference.
Yeah. So, I'm going to find that link to the school lunchbox.
Please do. That would be amazing. If you find it tonight, send it through, because I'll send an email out tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Or then I can just wait till you send it through in the morning, whichever. But I'll send an email to all of our database tomorrow morning. So look out for it, guys. It'll have all the links in there for the school lunches replay, as well as the Q&A sign up for next week, and the culture offer that Kirsty has generously offered all of us. Thank you, Kirsty. It is always such a pleasure to talk to you. I learn so much every time. I feel like I just love having these chats, because
I love them too, because you remind me of just how awesome like the gut is, and And you remind me just, I don't know, that this is still so new to a lot of people, but I always see your aha when we have these times.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're going to go and look up the oral microbiome. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's so cool. I just love learning about how amazing our bodies really are. And if we can look after them and feed them and fuel them, they're just going to thrive in our mind as well. Like, it's just incredible. So it's late. I'm going to say goodbye. Julie says, that's me, not sure which jar. It's a Kilner jar, Kilner, but I'll email you, Julie.
Yeah, but that's exactly right, Julie. People are like, oh, don't know, I won't start. It's like that decision-making fatigue. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for being here with us. It's really appreciated. We love to see all your comments and have a chat. Yeah. Have a good sleep, everyone.
All right.
Rosie, can you say bye, Rosie? It's getting late for Rosie. She's not just late. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Whoops. Hang on. What did you do? Where have they gone? Now I can't stop. See, now we're still live.
Yeah.
And you've actually vanished. My screen is just my desktop. So let me find where you are. There you are. Okay. Bye, everyone, again.